Hey folks, Eric Wooldridge here of the Additive Guru channel, and today, to celebrate Halloween in October and the fall, we are going to 3D model and carve our own pumpkin. To do this, we're going to start off, you can actually do it a couple of different ways. One of the ways that I'm going to demonstrate is how to use our surfacing features or our form features to create a cool pumpkin. So the first thing I'm going to do is click on Infusion 360 here, click on my create a form, and my ribbon changes, and I'm going to select the quad ball. Now it's going to ask me where I want to place the quad ball, and I'm going to say about right there, and then it's going to ask me where in that plane I want to click to place it. It doesn't really matter, but I can put it on the center. That's cool. And a quad ball appears. Now, a couple things I want to do about the quad ball is I want to make it kind of realistic to a pumpkin size, just in case I want it to be, you know, super accurate. So a pumpkin could probably range in a variety of sizes, but I'm gonna make my pumpkin a pretty good hand-holding pumpkin. Let's say we'll go 200, maybe go 300 diameter unit in millimeter. So type in 300 there, and span surfaces. Now we're gonna maybe increase this a little bit. By the way, I am going to switch my view to wireframe so I can get a little bit better understanding of what I'm looking at. And maybe I'm going to increase this to 5 maybe. Whoops, wrong thing. Sorry. 300 there. And we'll say 5. This gives me more edges to select and manipulate. Maybe 5 might be too much though, now that I think about it. Maybe 4 should be enough. Yeah, this will give me edges to work with. So I say new body. You know, I could choose something else if it were there, but it's not. So new body, symmetry, don't have to worry about that, and hit OK. And now I have a form, a quad ball, that is pumpkin sized. And so, what can I do for this pumpkin? Well, I can turn around and use my modify feature here to click on it, click this point perhaps, and flatten it down. Just like a real pumpkin would kind of be a little bit more flat on the top and bottom. So I flattened down the top, and I'm going to come down below underneath and click on this point and flatten it down as well, because most pumpkins are not perfectly symmetrical. That looks good. A little flatter on the base, maybe just a little bit more. Gotta kind of watch when you grab these things so you're pulling what you think you're actually pulling against. There we go, so it's a little bit flatter. And you could spend more time in doing this to kind of get it the way you want to. By the way, a shortcut to switch back and forth between shaded and wireframe is Control 4 on your keyboard or Control 7. You can kind of see that I flattened it off. It may not be the best looking pumpkin, but we're getting there, you know. So back to 7. And you know, a pumpkin is not something that is perfectly symmetrical. So what I can do is I can select some of these edges and maybe have a little bit, or surfaces themselves, and have a little bit more of a pull. So I'm going to hold down my control key and click on that surface, that one, 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 and that one, and then use my modify to pull that whole group of surfaces in or out. Maybe not that much, maybe a little bit in. It's jumping 25s, and I don't really like that idea, so I'm just going to say 10, and maybe pull that out just a hair. Give it a little bit more of an oblong shape to it. And maybe I'll come in on this side and I'll just grab an edge. Control on my keyboard and click, and I can select the edges all the way down. And then I can hit modify and pull them out where it's just like that little rib, or maybe I can pull it back in too. Maybe we'll go a -10 over here. Just something just to kind of make it a little bit different. Right? And maybe I look at the top and I say, you know what, maybe this point can go down a little bit too. Modify, push that point down just a hair. Come over this side. Modify, push that point down. And you can see I'm really kind of shaping my pumpkin. It's thinking about it. There we go. Shaping my pumpkin. I kind of look more like an apple, but that's okay. We're just doing some cool stuff. Control 7. And I could go around through the process of and actually start pulling a few things in. Maybe I don't like this edge just a little bit, so I click on it with control and click to select several of them, hit modify, start pulling it in this way, and say maybe -5. Just a little indentation just to make it a little bit more organic. And so you can go through a lot to kind of really dress up your pumpkin. Let's say I like that. That's cool. We won't add a stem right now, but we could if we want to. And let's say that I like that look. So, just to go get the process going, why don't you go ahead and pause the video and go make your own quad ball and do some shaping to get the pumpkin the way you like. Alright? Pause the video and do that now. Okay. Now it's time to look at what happens next. We are looking at our pumpkin, and we want to, let's say we want to carve some things out. The cool thing is, by using that form, and the form being a complete quad ball solid, it means that when I got done doing the form, I can actually, use other 3D creations to work with it. For example, I can actually start carving some features out of my pumpkin. Now, one of the advantages of me actually placing the pumpkin in the very center is that I can just simply click on this plane right here when I do my next sketch, and I can create some cool features. So I'm going to go ahead and create like an eyeball like this. I'm going to use the spline tool and do like the typical way that you make an eyeball within a pumpkin. Close it back there, right? And I can give it a little, let's give it a little funky, kind of quizzical maybe look to it. Okay. Maybe a mouth. And maybe give him one tooth. Whoops. I'll undo that and start that one over. Gotta kind of watch it when you use the spline, because you'll inadvertently click on the check mark to finish instead of, and you don't have to use the spline for this process. Do want to close it though. Maybe like a little bit of a nose. Well, I tell you what, we'll use the regular line tool for this. And you'll notice I'm not really worrying about a whole lot about dimensions or perfect accuracy, because it's like carving a pumpkin yourself. And you'll see my profiles, they're all good. I say finish sketch, and I say extrude, click on that zone, click on that zone. May have to get rid of, may not be able to see the mouth real well. See how it's not letting me get to the mouth? Which I can come back and fix that in a second. I can probably turn the body off and get to him a little bit easier. There we go. See what I did over there? Just come over and hit the little eyeball to get rid of the body so I couldn't see it. And click that. Turn the body back on. And then I grab and pull this way so that it passes through the outside of my pumpkin. Make sure it's set to a cut as you see over here, and OK. And now we have our 3D pumpkin. Now, is it a realistic pumpkin? Not really, because it wasn't hollowed out on the inside. I could easily take care of that with another quick trick, but this is good for right now. Why don't you go ahead and pause the video and do your own cutout of the pumpkin. Pause the video and do that now. Alright, now it's time to add another feature onto our pumpkin, and that is the stem. Now you can do this a couple different ways. I'll show you a very simple way to do it. You can just do a quick revolve to make the stem vertical, and this could go like this. I select my sketch tool, I click on it there, and I come up to roughly where the pumpkin is, and I'll just say, alright, I'm just going to make a stem that is, well, we can make it like a rectangle. That'd be easy. There we go. And hit finish, and then we can do a create revolve. Click the zone, click the axis of being this line right here, and tell it not to be a cut, but be a join. And now we have a pumpkin with a stem. It's not a very impressive stem though, right? You know, we could probably do a little bit better at that. So, well, what can we do? We can actually do another form to make the stem. So I'm going to undo that, get rid of that sketch too, because it's just not interesting enough for our capabilities. And I'm going to hit form, create a form, and I'm going to select a cylinder, and it's going to say, well, where you want to place it. I want to say, you know, right here's fine. And where's it going to place it on there? And I'll say right in the center, that's fine. And I'll just make my stem come up through the part. Now, does it matter that it's on the inside of the pumpkin all the way down the middle? No, it doesn't matter at all. I can actually work with that just fine. Now if I wanted to do a little bit closer to the top, I could have done an offset plane, but it's alright. So I hit OK. Maybe pull it back down just a little bit. May not be too awful big. I may jump back and forth between my shaded version and my wireframe version so I can see where things are. Hit OK. And now I will manipulate the form with my modify feature, selecting a few edges. Let's say that one, and kind of pulling it this way, maybe pulling this one this way. I could also select the surface itself. And I can just make it a little bit more, you know, maybe even give a little bit of a tilt to it. May select this surface, give it a little bit of a tilt, a little twist. Anything to make it a little bit more realistic. And shade it back up. And you see that I have that. And I can finish form. Alright. But now we have a problem. You know, the problem is we have this solid, or we have this body of the first form, which was the pumpkin, but we have this body, which is the stem, and they're not together. We can't do anything about that. So we got to put them together. And that's where those tricks of the whole, turn this off, the whole patching and stitching come in. And if you're not familiar with this, you can check out some of our other materials. But I need to patch and stitch this upper half. And so what I'm going to do is go to Surface, go to Patch, click on this edge, and then click on the bottom edge. No, it's going to do one at a time, so that's fine. Click on the top edge, say Patch. Click on the bottom ring here, say Patch. And you can see now that I can't look down through it, although that last one didn't take. Let me try that again. There we go. And that's still not taken. Or maybe it is. It might be okay. It might be patched. I think it may have been patched the first time. Sometimes the coloration is not the same. Here's what we'll know. Yeah, it did. So, I patched it way too many times, but it's okay. It's fine. Now that I've patched it and basically sealed up the top and the bottom, I do a stitch to finish it. Hit the stitch button, do a box selection by clicking and dragging, and say OK. And now it is a body. You can tell it's a body because it shows as body 7, and we have body 1 we can turn back on. And now we can do something to combine these two features. So check it out. Now that it is, I'll go back to the solid here, and I'm going to tell it to modify and combine this one and this one. And say join, hit OK, and now we have one body that is combined. And there you have it. We have made a pumpkin. I can now right click on this one and say save as STL, turn it to an STL file, and go 3D print it. If you want to get more creative, don't forget you can always go back and do some changes and manipulations along the way. Meaning that what you can do is you can go through and change your forms as they're created. So watch this. I'll slide the slider back all the way to there so I can just kind of see it. I'll right click on it and say edit. And of course I'll change our wireframe, Control 7, and I can go through and do some other things to the feature. Let's say that I decide, well, you know what, the back side needs a little bit more oblongness to it. So maybe I click on the modify, grab it there, and just drag it out a little bit, just to give it a little oddity there. Maybe a little, you know, kind of a wart situation. I'll click on this surface and I can actually pull this one out a little bit, push it up a little bit. Maybe even just kind of grab this and scale it just a little bit. Hit OK and say finish form. And now my Control 4, my feature has that little bit to it. Drag my timeline back out to where it was. Everything updates and I have modified the form, giving them kind of like an oblong head. Same thing with the stem. I can go back and modify the stem by dragging this back to there. And I can actually even turn off the pumpkin if I want to, just to help out a little bit, which I will. And I'll right click on the form, say edit, switch to a wireframe view, Control 7, and then I'm going to go through, and I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to see if I can select this upper region here, clicking with Control held down. I'm going to try to manipulate that whole curvature across the top. Alright, modify, and I'll give it a little bit of a twist. Maybe a little bit turn that way. Maybe I'm going to stretch and pull it just a little bit more. And maybe I'll click on this to kind of pull that back just a hair. Say OK. Now don't get too crazy, because if you start twisting and pulling and doing too much work, you will twist a vertex in on itself, and then you won't be able to patch and stitch it. Hit finish form, slide it back out, see if it updates, turn the body back on, Control 4, and sure enough, there we go. We have now modified our stem to be a little bit more realistic of a stem. And again, we can right click on this and say save as STL, and then send it to a 3D printer to 3D print our pumpkin. If you want to get wild and crazier, and you didn't like the fact that this thing wasn't truly hollow, you could turn around and go back and add another form. That would be another quad ball on the inside, and then subtract one from the other as a cut, and you could do it. Or you could do it like this. I'll show you one last trick just to kind of make it a little bit better, more to your liking. I'll hit my sketch, I'll select my plane in the middle, and switch to wireframe here. And I'm going to make a half sphere. So what I'm going to do is draw a line just kind of up to this point, maybe down to this point, and I'm going to, let's just say, draw a circle from there to there. I could do this also with an arc if I really wanted to, but I think, see how my circle is like within the walls of the pumpkin, and we'll draw this line down so it closes the circle. Okay. And I don't really even need this. I can trim off this half of the circle. And I can probably do something with this to make it a little bit larger. Don't get too crazy, because again, it's gonna pop out. So once that's done, I hit finish sketch and I say revolve. I select, turn my body off so I don't see it. See how it's not selecting? That means I don't have it being continuous somewhere. It's not connected fully. So I need to go fix that. Otherwise it would work. So I'm going to turn the body back off, right click on this sketch, say edit sketch, and just make sure that I draw a line from that point to that point, and it's still not selecting for some reason. This does happen every now and then. Alright, just to make it easier, I'm just going to draw this with a spline. And then draw it one more time to connect. Surely it'll get it that time. Revolve. There we go. Got it that time. And turn my body back on and tell it to select the axis that is in the middle there. Tell it to be a cut. Hit OK. And now we shade it back up. And technically our pumpkin is now hollow. And it also got rid of that stem sticking down through the middle of it. So now we have a better pumpkin that is hollow on the inside. We could adjust the size of that revolve to actually round it out a little bit better, but you can see your pumpkin is made this way. Okay? Now, why don't you pause the video and kind of recreate what I've done there. You can add the stem in, go make some changes, go make it your own, and let's see what you do. Pause the video and do that now. Alright, now any other features that you would want to do to kind of really enhance it, you could turn around and do like a fillet around that curvature. And it looks like that's going to be too little or too large. There we go. A 2 fillet works, maybe 3, maybe 4. Nah, 4 is too much. 3 it is. You could fillet that there and say, okay. I could maybe do a fillet here to round all that off if I wanted to. Just kind of give it a little bit more smoother curve. Yep. Doesn't like that larger number, does it? Doesn't even like that, does it? Yeah, maybe a 2. So you can do fillets and rounds and those kind of things to smooth things off if you really want to enhance it. Not a huge deal at this point in time. But there's all kinds of things that you can do. Now, if you have problems with the form, always remember, don't get too crazy. Don't start twisting and pulling and twisting things in on themselves, because anytime you take a vertices and it stretches or goes the wrong way, it's going to cause you a problem. So, there you go, your own carved pumpkin. Feel free to design it as you will. Hope you've had a good time making this, and happy Halloween. And for those of you that might be doing this during the spring or summer semester, well, you know, you can print it later on when the time is right. We'll talk to you later. See ya.